And welcome back to the Common Gourmet. Before we get started today, I'd like to say thank you. My subscriber amount isn't real big yet, but I do have some. I've been getting some positive feedback, and we've gotten quite a few views. So if you've got anybody that you know would like a good cooking channel, send them over. And for those of you that are here, I appreciate you coming back. So today we're not going to do a recipe. Now, I do recipes and I enjoy them, but even when I do them, I don't just give you a list of ingredients and show you how to put it together. I like to explain why things work so you can change things to fit your lifestyle, fit your taste, fit your budget, or just to change things up. So today we are going to do our friend coffee. Now, everybody likes coffee. I don't know too many people that don't. We do here. We go through usually about 2 pots a day. And there are many ways to make coffee. There's a French press, there's drip coffee makers, percolators, there's espresso machines. I would say probably in the 95 percentile in North America, you're going to find drip coffee makers in constant daily use. Now, I have a French press and I use it, not every day. I do not have a percolator, although I wouldn't mind having one if I can find one. They're just not as convenient, and they're not as mess-free as a drip coffee maker. So what we're going to be talking about today strictly deals with the drip coffee makers. Ours is a basic $20 Walmart 12-cup coffee pot. For 12 cups, I use about a half of a cup of coffee grounds. Maybe a little heat, but not too much. Really, I'm sure if you wanted to get a food scientist and look it up, there's a specific ratio of grounds to water. I think that's just a personal preference. Now, I know a lot of people that say, well, I don't like strong coffee, but what they actually don't like is bitter coffee. We're going to talk about that in a minute. As to what type of grounds, once again, what can you afford? If you can afford the $300 a pound beans that have been squeezed through a friggin' civet cat, you go right ahead. Me, I buy Maxwell House, Folgers, pretty much whatever's, the cheapest for the time. I tend to stay away from the no-name, the off-brand, or the store-brand coffees, just because they seem to be a little higher in acid. Now, this method I'm getting ready to describe will help with that, but in general, they still tend to be a little rougher. So, I was always told growing up as a kid, my grandmother and my mother would say, always use cold coffee to make water. Well, that comes from the days of percolators, and a percolator needed cold water. If you put warm water in, it sped the process up too much, and the water didn't get enough time with the ground, so you had very weak coffee. If you use cold water today, however, we actually are getting the opposite effect. So your best flavor, actually almost all your flavor, comes within the first 4 to 6 minutes of brewing. Any more than that, and what you do is you start drawing out different volatile oils. The flavoring volatile oils are very different from the ones that are a long soak. The bitterness that you get from coffee comes from coffee grounds that have had too much time in the water. The volatile oils that give the flavor are different than the ones that give the bitter. So what we do is we preheat the water. Now, first off, you must have fresh cold water. Don't use hot water. Hot tap water has been sitting, and the longer water is heated, the more gas is going to escape, and that tends to make the coffee taste flat. I run the cold water ferment to make sure I'm getting cold, a nice fresh batch, and I have an electric kettle. So I fill the kettle up, I put it on. Now, if you don't have a kettle or an electric kettle, that's fine. Tea kettle on the stove, saucepan on the stove, doesn't matter. However you want to heat it. Now, when the water starts getting to that stage, you can hear it, check it, because you do not want a full rolling boil. What you want is where all those little bitty bubbles are starting, almost looks like soda in there. That's what you're looking for. It's just started to heat, but it's not boiling yet. Warning, do not put full rolling boil water into a plastic coffee maker. Even though the water chamber probably will withstand it, there's a little rubber tube that runs from the bottom of the water chamber into the works. That's what transfers the water out. You put boiling water through that, and a few times of that, it's going to kill it. So if you do it, it's on your own head, not mine. So I have my coffee in, prepped, clean carafe. If your coffee pot has a slight film to it, it's just the same thing as putting old coffee in the pot and brewing new on top of it. It's going to affect the flavor. Pour your water in, turn it on. Now, I find I have to put just a titch more water in because some of it steams off more than normal, and it brews in half or even a quarter of the time, give or take, which is a good thing. It's quicker, and you don't get that. Sometimes, you know, if you've had a cup of coffee, it's almost like it's burning your throat a little bit in the back. That's the acids. Those are much reduced. Now, one thing though, should you be somewhere where you can't preheat the water, or you just don't want to take the time to preheat the water, or you're still having trouble, like it's bothering your stomach with the acid in coffee, take just the barest pinch of baking soda before you brew the coffee and throw it in the pot. Nobody will know it's there because it does not affect the flavor, but it will help kill some of that acid down. So now that your coffee's made, what are you going to do? If you reasonably think you're going to drink what's been brewed within 20 to 30 minutes, you're probably safe. Anything over 30 though, and I would recommend pulling it off the heat, putting it in a thermos. If you ever watched one of the old 50 shows and nobody's serving out of the pot it was brewed in, it's served in, from a service set, that was part of the reason why. Because if it's allowed to sit on the heat too long, the volatile oils will start to break down. You get that burnt coffee flavor. That's why. So, if you have a nice thermos, a thermos would be good. If not, drink it quickly. I don't know. Whatever you can do to keep it warm, but without, too much heat. So, I have a buddy, James. James and I talk coffee quite a bit, and he wanted to know some new stuff to do with coffee. So, actually we were talking when he said he put cinnamon in his coffee. I said, well, there's a better way. If the things you want to flavor your coffee don't dissolve in water, don't put them in the coffee. Kind of a standard tip. If you have control over the brewing, this is what I do. Here's a nice holiday coffee for you. A 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/8 of a teaspoon of clove, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. Or you can use allspice instead of the clove. I prefer allspice myself. I like allspice quite a bit actually. But you put it in with the grounds. Just kind of dump it in there, mix it around a little bit, and when it brews, that flavor will come through without all the little gritty bits getting into your coffee. If you really want to make that a nice treat, brew the coffee that way. And then I prefer half and half if I'm putting cream in a coffee, which I don't normally. I used to drink it black, but if I'm gonna go with cream, I prefer cream, half and half or richer. So half and half, and get a nice caramel sauce, either like a caramel ice cream topping, something that's not too hard, or make yourself a nice caramel sauce. It's not that hard. Caramel, cream, in with the flavored coffee. That's good. If you like chocolate, a little cocoa powder, about a half teaspoon in with the grounds. Now you're probably going to want sugar in with the coffee with that. Cocoa powder is going to make it quite bitter. And here's a nice little dessert for you. Put your cocoa powder in with the coffee and brew the coffee. Chocolate sauce in the bottom of the cup before you pour, and about like a dessert spoon, like a large dessert spoon sized chunk of chocolate ice cream in the cup, and then pour the coffee in. It will cool the coffee off quickly, but it shouldn't bring it cold by any means. And then you'll have this nice frothy, foamy on the top, and it's chocolatey. It's very good. If you really want something chocolate but you want it good and hot, take a packet of your favorite hot chocolate mix. Hot cocoa, hot chocolate, whatever. Put it in. I recommend putting in a little milk or half and half with it, just like a spoonful. Just enough to start the wet process and get it mixed in, and then pour your coffee in. Cafe mocha. Caramel sauce by itself is a nice flavoring with coffee. If you have vanilla beans, I can't afford vanilla beans. I would love some vanilla beans. But if you have vanilla beans and you've already scraped the middle out and are looking for something to do with the pods, a lot of people take the pods and put them in sugar to turn it into vanilla sugar, which is nice. And the vanilla sugar can be used with coffee as well. Or if you don't want to flavor your sugar, can, whatever, but you still have some leftover pod, cut a piece about maybe a ½ inch long and throw it in with the grounds. You'll get a nice vanilla flavoring with that too. Pretty much any flavor that you think would go well with coffee probably will. Give it a try. Like I said, if it doesn't dissolve in liquid, put it in with the grounds and let it brew in. And if it does dissolve, it's something that you can add in after if you like. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this. I'd really like some more likes and some more subscribes. And until next time, enjoy cooking.